Okay.
All right, welcome everybody. You've come to another episode of Why Senior Virtual Connect. I'm excited today to welcome Steve Schick. Steve is with Chef for Seniors. Did I say that correctly?
That's right.
This is, I'm a foodie. If you guys do, those of you guys who know, I love to cook. I love to eat even more. I think that's why I love to cook, because I love to eat so much. So I'm super excited today to, the other thing is I really focus on my health and wellness. So, besides being a fitness instructor, you just can't outrun your fork. So what you put on your fork is really, super important. It's been life changing for me for a lot of ways. So I always welcome people to, educate me about how I can be healthier and eat better. So with that, Steve, I'm going to turn things over to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do, and enlighten us all kinds of wellness ideas.
Okay. Well, let's start with, let me see. Is it okay? I'm going to share my screen.
Oh yeah, have I made you, hold on, I feel like I did not make you co-host.
It tells me that you disabled me.
Oh, I didn't mean to do that.
No, it was really painful too.
Sorry, hold on. I did not mean to do that. I meant to make co-host.
There you go.
Yes.
All
That's
right.
what I meant to do.
So let's see here. Well, let's do this first. Click on that one. And then I'm going to bring up a slide. Hang on. There we go. Hi, everybody. My name is Steve Schick. This is my wife, Cynthia. So I'm the pretty one on your left. My wife is the smart one on the right, just so you know. We own Chefs for Seniors, Charlotte. We started it a year ago. Interestingly enough, I've owned a franchise consulting company for about 22 years. I work with companies I'm a business coach. We'll just do it that way. My wife worked with me in the business and also worked with some other franchise companies. And suffice it to say that we've had some things happen in our lives over the last several years. One of which included starting a nonprofit where we take care of children. We're motivating high school kids to get off their phones and talk to each other, be kind to people. Rachel's Kindness Matters movement is the name of the nonprofit that we operate. We learned about the opportunity then to do some work with seniors, and I don't know about the rest of you, but as you go through your career, you tend to a lot of people like us just transition from the need to be quote unquote successful and make money and so forth to get to a place where you really want to give back. My wife learned about this business a little over a year ago. And of course, at that time I was 63 years old. And of course I'm like, yeah, that's really what I want, is another business. Okay. So I'm just being honest with you folks. So I kind of went into this by just saying, all right, I'll take a look at it. And having been, a quote unquote expert in the franchise industry, I decided to take a look, being completely sure that I'd find a lot wrong with it. And, I ended up becoming very disappointed because it was everything that we thought it was going to be. So what we're going to do today, folks, is talk a little bit about senior nutrition. I want to give you a little bit of a background of, the guys that started this. The gentleman on the left, his name is Barrett Allman. He has been a master chef and a restaurateur for many, many years. He owns several restaurants and so forth. The guy on the right is his son, Nathan. And, they like to tell the story of when, Nathan's great grandmother stopped cooking. Hard to her to stand long periods of time and things like that. And she just got tired. And, that's kind of what happens to us, as you know. So, they decided that they were going to go in and help her to more or less age in place. it got bad. She ended up having to go to a nursing home and things like that, which of course she really didn't want to do. Eventually, it obviously got very expensive, but they started to come up with this idea of helping people to age in place by literally going into the home and cooking meals and so forth. Nathan actually put together a business plan for this model while he was going to the University of Wisconsin in Madison, and actually won a contest out of 300 people who did something like this. This was the idea that was chosen as the best one. So they started franchising it several years ago. In 2018, they had served over 100,000 meals in seniors' homes and so forth. So the purpose of the guide that we have in front of us, as you can see, is to educate you and people that about just options and identifying meals and meal services and things of that nature. There'll be a relatively small amount of shameless self promotion from us, but honestly, folks, I'm really more attached to you folks getting the information that you need, and being able to feel better about aging in place or just eating healthier. Okay, so with that in mind, we're going to talk a little bit about 10 steps, 10 nutritional tips for people that are older. By the way, this guide is actually in a PDF format. When I get finished with this, I'm going to send this to Jane, and she will be able to send it to you if you decide you'd like to have this. I'm going to go over a lot of the information, but it'll go relatively quickly. And of course, I don't want to read the whole thing, but there are some things in here that I thought would be, kind of important. I'm also going to start with, before I get into this, I'm a pretty healthy person overall. I'm 64 years old today, but about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I was at my doctor's office. And because so many of the people in my family passed away in their early 70s, I asked my doctor how if you're heart healthy, if you have things wrong with you and so forth. So, they did this EKG and so forth. And then he told me about this calcium score. And being a competitive person, I scheduled this test. I go into the hospital and they're getting ready to put me in this tube to do the calcium score. And I don't know if you know what that is, but it basically measures what you have in your arteries. Okay, whether your arteries are clogged up and things like that. Many of you probably heard this. Anyway, I asked the ladies that were attending this machine, how I could get a good score, and they said, well, that would be a 0. And I said, well, what's a bad score? And she said 900. A couple of days later, after I did the test, I got a phone call, and I literally got a voice message from my doctor saying, I got the results back of your test and your score was 1080. And the other thing he left on my voicemail was, if you have any I'm going to refer you to a cardiologist. If you have any chest pain between now and when you get there, calling 911 wouldn't be out of the question. I'm not kidding you guys. This is really the way this happened. So needless to say, I'm a wreck, okay? Because I'm thinking that I'm healthy and he's telling me that I'm in trouble. Now, as it turned out, I already had an appointment scheduled with a place here in town called Pure Cardiology. I'm not trying to sell them, but basically it was a cardiologist who believes much more in holistic medicine. So I went to see him. We talked about my physical activity and so forth, and he told me that I could pass the stress test. And if I simply changed my diet, I was probably going to be okay. For the record, today, I'm not on a statin anymore because I don't need it because of the way I eat. My cholesterol and so forth are actually lower today, and my blood pressure is lower taking no drugs, as opposed to what I was doing with the conventional medicine. I don't want to say the other guys are bad. What I am saying is that it was interesting to me that later on we find this business. And as you read from Jane's note, my wife and I believe that food is medicine, and we are living proof of that. Because we eat differently, we feel better, we have a chance to be more active, and hopefully age in place a lot longer. I know some of you may be older than my wife and I'm 64, she's 62, and so forth. But you want to get the most from your life you can. And you want to be able to do it feeling good. Just getting up every day isn't really enough for most of us. We want to be able to do something. So that's really the basis around which this whole thing, came into our lives. So we want to start with eating less sugar. It's empty calories. It's bad for the teeth. It can overload your liver. And as you can see, excess consumption be a contributing factor for type 2 diabetes. By the way, for 13 years, I was pre-diabetic. Every year I would get this test done and he'd say, you're right on the edge, you're right on the edge. And fortunately, that's all kind of gone away. 50 grams of sugar a day is what the World Health Organization says that we should be having when we get to be our age. 2,000 calories a day total. We basically want to cut back on artificial sugars. We got to stay away from, things like canned vegetables, potato chips, things of that nature, anything that's artificial, and really stick to fresh fruits and vegetables. I don't know about you folks. I didn't realize there were so many options out there that would incorporate beans, nuts, and seeds into recipes that really kind of enhance a plant-based diet. When my doctor was talking to me about this, I was saying, okay, because I'm a meat and potatoes guy. My family were all, nice, simple blue collar people. My dad was a sheet metal fabricator, and we just had roast beef and potatoes. I mean, that's kind of what we ate, and that's what we liked, and that's what it was. What we found was, as we started to incorporate more of these things, we find that the nuts and the seeds provide protein, plant-based mono and polyunsaturated fats, and so forth. All the beans are high in fiber and protein. So what that means is if you incorporate some of those things into your diet, you're going to want meat less, is basically what's going to happen. The other thing that happens is, our bodies don't absorb nutrients as efficiently as younger people. So we need about 5 servings of these, nuts, seeds, and beans, on a regular basis. We want to control our portion sizes. If we're going to stay at a healthy weight, we have to look at how much we're eating. Frankly, that's been one of the hardest things for me to change, because I was used to working out. I was used to having a lot of food on my plate and so forth. And it was much more difficult. But you're going to want to talk to your doctor about that, about portion sizes and, things of that nature. For all practical purposes, women over 50 need about 1,600 to 2,000 calories a day. Men need 2,000 to 2,800. So the other thing that's important you'll see is instead of eating a larger portion once or twice a day, you're actually better off eating 3 to 6 smaller meals throughout the day. Does anybody do that now? Anybody eat smaller portions? Pinky does. How about you, Jane?
Yeah, I just basically eat 2 meals a day.
You just eat twice? Okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I do. But my doctor believes it's okay to fast. He likes me to do this 16-hour thing where I don't eat past 7 o'clock. I don't eat until noon, and I don't eat, past 7 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock at night. That's it. So there's about 16 hours that cycles through. I'm not a big breakfast person anyway, although if you get this guide, if we send this over to you, one of the things you're going to see is it wants you to eat breakfast. Okay. It's because it'll kickstart your metabolism and so forth. So for a lot of people, the 16-hour fast opportunity really isn't a good one. It's not really right for everybody. Staying away from, but doing the smaller meals has the potential to help you stay away from junk food and, and things of that nature. Okay. Keeping the salt down is a really big deal. Obviously, everybody needs a certain amount of salt for your body to operate properly. Frankly, it helps you with your nerve function, muscle contraction, things of that nature. But too much of it is going to worsen your heart disease. Your kidneys aren't going to function well. And it does make it more difficult, for your body to remove it, because as you get older, it's just more difficult. So if you want to reduce your sodium intake, you could literally take the salt shaker off the table and avoid a lot of the foods that are on this list right here. Unfortunately, I like a lot of these things. Soy sauce, chips, cheese, processed meats. I don't know if any of you guys are Jersey Mike's fans. I am. Okay. But I only get the 99% fat-free turkey. It's still processed. Okay. My wife still reminds me that it's processed, but that's one of my, I guess, guilty pleasures. I happen to like vegetable juice, V8 juice, and so forth, but it's got a lot of sodium in it. There is a low sodium V8 product for those of you who like vegetable juice, soups, canned vegetables, and ketchup. I don't eat very much ketchup these days because I'm not allowed to eat French fries anymore. But and French fries, of course, are going to have a lot of salt on them. We found that from time to time we'll open a can of vegetables, but Del Monte has an option where there's no salt added. So you can actually find no salt canned vegetables in the grocery store if you're going to, the average grocery store. You want to avoid prepackaged frozen meals. My mother is 84 years old, doesn't take a pill. And when I go to her house, it's Marie Callender's, which makes me crazy. I want to get a chef for her. Okay. But she keeps saying no. And, because she's 84 and doesn't take a pill, I don't have a lot of weight in my mother's house. She used to be an awesome cook, but she's all by herself now and she doesn't really like to cook that much anymore. She does have an 86-year-old boyfriend. My dad's been gone for about 18 years. So, anyway, staying away from frozen meals, and things that contain a lot of sodium is kind of a big deal. And I think if you read those labels, anybody here a real label reader? My wife hates to go to the grocery. Yeah, Pinky is, BG's is. My wife hates to go to the grocery store with me because I am a label reader. I want to see what those nutrition facts are. They were thinking about me when the government decided that they needed to put that information on the things we were buying at the grocery store. So anyway, getting enough calcium-rich food prevents osteoporosis, so your bones don't get so weak, and frankly, have a likelihood for a bone breakage. What happened to my? How did that happen? Hey, did you do that?
No.
Okay, well, I didn't do it, just so you guys know. Okay.
That's crazy.
Anyway, yeah, that was kind of wacky. Anyway, as you age, your intestines don't absorb as much as they used to, and your kidneys are going to have trouble retaining the calcium. So you want to make sure that you're, including those things in your daily diet so that you can get it more through whole foods as opposed to supplements and things like that. Hydration is a really big deal. It's interesting. I think the statistics that we have here are a little different than what we heard last week. Was it Effie that did the presentation last week?
Yes.
And she said you want to take your weight in ounces and divide it in half. Was that correct?
Yes, you should drink half your body weight in ounces.
Half your body weight in ounces. So, I think this particular survey had us at somewhere around 64 ounces of fluid a day, which is like a lot to me. They, carry a bottle of water throughout the day. And I think you do that anyway, don't you, Jane?
Yeah, oh yeah, this is my water bottle and it holds 24 ounces.
Yeah.
And I usually try to kill one like right out of bed just to start my day. That's kind of my breakfast start. And then 2 more throughout the day is not hard. And I generally do more than that. So
good for you. Good for you. Well, the thing about the water that helps me, because I'm not a breakfast person, I've got this guy right. Oh, you probably can't see. I've got this guy right here, and I'll do 3 or 4 of these guys a day. To kind of keep me going. But if I hit this pretty hard when I first get in the office, it does kickstart my metabolism. So it's a lot easier for me to, to feel like I'm awake and, and so on. Now, as you can see, the guide that I have up says you really need to eat breakfast. So skipping a meal, especially breakfast, isn't a good idea for anyone, especially seniors, because it helps you regulate your metabolism. So for the moment, I can get my metabolism started with water and still feel okay about it. I don't know if that's going to last me forever, but I am kind of used to it. And, it does seem to be working for me. Smoothies. Now, we're not talking about milkshakes, that have a lot of ice cream and sugar and things like that. Do any of you folks have juicers or anything like that? My wife got a juicer, Pinky, and I can't believe all the stuff she's thrown away from the juicer, but the juice is really good. She makes a whole different kinds of them with beets and ginger and, carrots and a whole bunch of other things. And it's just packed with really good stuff, but it does make a little bit of a mess, before it's all over with. And you can replace a meal with a really good smoothie if you're doing it right. You could add a scoop of whey powder to it if you'd like to do that. My wife likes to put chia seeds and flax and things like that to add a little bit more fiber, and so forth. The guys at Chefs for Seniors were talking about one that has spinach, banana, peanut butter, whey protein, and almond milk. And they say they call that the Green Elvis smoothie, which I think is kind of cool. So I haven't actually tried that yet, but I think we're probably going to, more sooner rather than later. You don't know how I can get rid of all these wacky lines, do you, Jane?
Go up to I can't do it, but you need to go to, I think your screen. And Kathy had a question I'm going to put out here. Do you recommend, we can talk about water in a little bit if you have some water conversation, but I can share what I do too. Try to go to your screen. Let's see, view options. I can't access your screen.
Oh, here it is. It's up here.
Let's see if we can. I can't access your screen. I'm not sure how to undo what's there. Maybe your cursor moved over on it when you.
Well, that's the thing. I'm moving my cursor around now and it's not doing anything.
Yeah, so maybe you put some paint on it. See, look over to the side where you might have put some paint on it. See if you can undo. There's an undo over there on your screen. Maybe you can undo what you've done.
Come on, where are you? More.
Maybe on your over to your right. Maybe there's a paintbrush, and maybe there's an undo thing. Not really sure. Let's see if I can see it better. I'll move this. While he see if he can figure this out, I will address Kathy. My water practice. I have yes, filtered water for the city. I mean, filtered water is probably better. There's Brita filters. There's different filters you can use to help filter out some of the stuff, which I think is definitely a good way to go. You can buy Brita filters. Sometimes refrigerators have filters on them. Anything else to filter out. I have actually recently started buying big jugs and buying my water. Earth Fare and Whole Foods, you can go and fill up these big containers. Since I drink so much water, and I use their filtered water there that they have, and it's like, I think it's 39 cents a gallon, so it's pretty affordable.
Yeah, I guess it would be,
it's kind of a hassle because you gotta go and I gotta go every like 3 days because my husband and I both drink a lot of water. But anyway, the water tastes really good and I think it's better. So some level of filtered water is better. I also don't like a lot of plastic. I'm very, I don't like to bring home a lot of plastic. So that's why I do all this reusable stuff. But yeah, a Brita filter as opposed to tap water is, at least better than straight Charlotte City tap water.
Yeah, we're in Weddington, and the water here supposedly is, pretty good from a fluoride and some of the other stuff standpoint. And we also have a well on our property. So anyway, we're feeling pretty good about that. Can you see my screen better now?
Yep, you got rid of whatever it was. Okay.
Yeah, I just got out of it and got back in, and it seems like it just went away. So I guess that the other thing is you want to ask your doctor, or your dietitian about some of those specific needs. For what it's worth, when I went to the doctor that I have right now, they did a blood test, of course, and, to check a lot of things. And there are blood tests and there are blood tests. I want to say this was probably 7 or 8 pages long by the time this was over with. And he even, when he was going through this with me to show me all the different things that they could figure out from your blood work, he showed me one particular statistic or figure that was there. And he said, "Do you see this number here?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "This is how I know you're not eating junk food." And I said, "Really?" He says, "You're not eating if you were eating potato chips and some of the other things like that, some of the processed food, this number would be a lot higher." But all those things mattered when it came to just feeling better and feeling like, I could end up being around and being healthy, longer. I think one of the reasons, and we joke with my mother about this all the time, because, and I think the reason that she's 84 and so healthy, she ate reasonably well for a long time, but she was also a barrel racer. She used to run rodeos. And by the way, my mother's 5 foot nothing. Okay. So she's a very small person who jumped up on this horse and be flying around this ring. And so the first time I saw her do it, it scared me to death. But my point was, it was a tremendous amount of exercise to take care of those horses every day, going out to the barn, hauling water and so on. And I think all the years that she spent doing that, helped her to stay in shape and be able to, feel better, for so much longer. But your doctor can tell you what foods to avoid, what foods you want to emphasize. A lot of healthcare providers can give you recipes. Frankly, when I went to my doctor, he actually had a cooking class for us right in the doctor's office, where he showed us how to make some of the things that we eat, even today. And you want to ask him some more questions about supplements, cutting back on salt. If you're not hungry during the day, is it normal for somebody your age? I don't think, you pay your doctor a lot of money, or your insurance company does, one way or another. I think it's okay to ask a lot of questions. And honestly, it's kind of how I ended up at where I was, just because I was at my regular guy at Novant, and I just sat there and said, how do I know if my arteries are clogged up? And one thing led to another, and here I am. So, food for thought. The guy in this picture right here is 92 years old. He just eats a lot of protein. I'm actually kidding about that, just so you know. He's probably a little bit older. Anyway, they're emphasizing to eat the beans, nuts, legumes, seeds, and and so forth, and keep moving to be able to build the muscle mass that you need, and so far down the road. I want to talk a little bit about what's called a MIND diet. Has anybody ever heard of this? Okay. The MIND diet is, a lot of people think it's just about losing your mind or losing cognitive ability and so forth. But for what it's worth, there are about 5.5 million Americans with Alzheimer's. And obviously that affects an awful lot more people than just the person who has Alzheimer's. The MIND diet, isn't necessarily in reference to the diet's supposed ability to improve your cognitive function. Rather, it stands for Mediterranean Intervention for Neurodegenerative Delay. The MIND diet meal plan is essentially a combination of two popular diets, meaning the Mediterranean and the DASH diet, with an emphasis on food that helps your brain. So, or things that help your brain, either improve or enhance the cognitive ability. there was a lady named Martha Claire Morris, who was an expert in nutritional epidemiology. And she's the one that came out with this thing in 2015. There were, obviously a lot of people that kind of went through it. And they were working with people from age 58 to 98. And the study did find that they were, if they were sticking to all three of these programs associated with this risk, their risk for Alzheimer's disease went down pretty dramatically. Actually, in some cases, it went down as much as 54%. So there's an awful lot you can do for yourself if you think about the things that that are going to matter the most while you're, thinking about this diet. So, and you're thinking of those kinds of things. Given the newness of this diet, the plan, there aren't a whole lot of studies and so forth around it. It still needs more research, but the results that they've seen so far since they started this several years ago are obviously very positive. So, if there are more things that you can do, this talks a little bit more about what this part of it looks like, but I want to go over to what's on the Mind diet to kind of give you a better sense of what this looks like. So the foods that you want to emphasize would be leafy greens, spinach, mixed greens, kale. How many people like kale? There aren't a lot of us that do, because it's really bitter. One of the things that we learned is you can steam it a little bit, and that'll take a lot of the bitterness out of it. It makes it a little easier to make. My wife makes a kale Caesar salad that's just awesome. I probably eat it 3 times a week, and so forth. And kale is one of the best things there is out there to put in your body. We actually have a list of foods and their nutritional values and so forth, and there's probably 50 different things on that list. You'd be amazed at how little nutrition there is in a head of iceberg lettuce, compared to romaine and kale and some of the other ones that that are out there. But you want at least 6 servings of these leafy greens pretty much every week. A lot of vitamin K, a lot of other essential nutrients. In addition to those, you want to eat 1 additional serving of vegetables per day. So think about berries at least twice a week. And this is kind of where you can incorporate this into your smoothies. Nuts, walnuts, almonds are actually 2 of the best. I have a handful of peanuts every day, just, because, and I'm just a big peanut fan. And sometimes I'll switch it up to walnuts or almonds, but, and I'm literally talking about a handful. I just grab a handful out of the can, eat them, and that's basically it. Whole grains, 3 or more servings of those a day. Brown rice, whole wheat pasta is good for you. So replace your butter with olive oil, because for your primary oil for cooking. And, now it's better to use a standard olive oil than extra virgin if you're going to be sauteing something or whatever. The other thing that you'll be happy to know is it's okay to have a glass of wine every day. A 5-ounce glass of wine every day, a red wine every day, they're finding out is really good for you. So that's another thing I think you would appreciate. Fish at least once a week. Salmon is especially beneficial. If you buy salmon, you want to buy wild caught, not necessarily the farm raised. Okay, you can now I go to Costco, so you can normally get it at Costco. If it's farm raised, and it's not saying that it doesn't have that it was raised without antibiotics, because you can get that too. It's almost not worth buying it, because a lot of what's in it is the nutrients are almost gone. Okay. You want to avoid some other foods. Red meat, you really want less red meat. You want be careful about the number of eggs that you're going to have, things of that nature. Keep away from the added sugar stuff. Hard cheese isn't bad for you. If it's a really hard cheese, like a Parmesan or something, softer cheeses are the ones that are going to give you the most trouble. So you want to stay away from, oh, what's the one you put in the oven, Jane, that we all like so much?
Mozzarella?
What's that? It's a white,
Mozzarella?
no, it's a white cheese. They usually put a little jelly or something.
Brie.
Oh, brie, brie.
That's it. Thank you. Brie is like really bad for you, just so you know.
It's really good, but it's really bad.
It's really good. Yep.
Really good.
Yep. But it's really bad. So anyway, it's just one of those things you want to be thinking about. I'm going to hit one more thing that has to do with food, and it's called the blue zones. How many of you have ever heard of a blue zone? Okay, Jane has. You can see on my screen that there are 5 areas in the world where people tend to live past 100. And some of the commonalities that they found in these blue zones had a lot to do with their diets.
Can you
Okay.
change your screen?
Yeah, can't you see that?
It says you're still on the line diet screen.
I honestly don't know why. Hang on one second. It shouldn't be. I had the blue zone slide up, so I don't know why it's not. I don't know why it's not showing.
Okay.
Hang on a second. Are we back on the PDF?
This is the one that says it's got your balsamic salmon, beef stew.
And that's still up? And that's still
what's up.
Because I'm
That's up,
sharing.
yeah.
Oh, it says your screen sharing is paused. All right. Let's see what happened there. Let's try this one. All right. Now you should be able to see the blue zone.
Yep, blue zone around the world.
There we go. Okay. So there was a gentleman named Dan Buettner, and he kind of ran around the world, you know, looking for these people that tended to live a lot longer, and found 5 different places between Italy, Japan, Costa Rica, Greece, and Loma Linda, California. These people basically have a 90% plant-based diet. They drink red wine every day. They eat practically no sugar, very little dairy. And they also eat a lot of items with fewer ingredients and many of the same ingredients, about 20 different ingredients. Now, this is where we're talking about the kale and the beans and those things that we just went through on that Mind diet, because that was part of how they ended up to live past 100 and be happy at the same time. Okay. They are out every day getting some exercise, doing whatever it is that they do. And, you know, mostly it's tending a garden or whatever. They grow a lot of their own, stuff. They'll eat meat from time to time, but generally it's more of an occasion when they do that. They have found through plants, you know, beans, different spices and so forth, maybe some homemade pasta, that they're very happy with with what they're eating. And it's not boring, but it's not necessarily a huge variety either. You know, you kind of get into that thing, you know, like I was talking about my son, he probably eats steel cut oatmeal like 5 times a week because it's just what he likes and so forth. So it's kind of one of those things where you get into a little bit of a zone about it, and and you kind of do that. So I want to go back. I'm going to try to go back to this to the PDF. Oh, there we go. So we're going to stop. I'm going to stop the screen share for just a minute. See if I can pull up what I had. I'm not actually finding what I was looking for. I seem to have lost my PDF, the presentation. So if you give me just a minute, I will have to go back and re-find it. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what happened here.
That's okay. We've all, you guys know, you've been with me and know I've had my share of technical issues as we've gone. It happens. Yeah, the blue zone. So there's a lot of centurions, like people who live, you know, into their hundreds, and they're just living, you know, well. They're moving around. They're part of a community, but their lifestyles are, you know, they eat real food. So I think that's kind of the basis of all this. And it is, they do eat, you know, not all the additives and things like that, but sometimes that is in the food that we consume.
Right. All right, let me see if we can move this thing along a little bit. I'm just going to talk about some different meal plans for, you know, for seniors. Obviously, this is the one, you know, if you're looking at, can you see my screen now?
Yes, meal service options.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. So, you know, this is basically what our customers see. You know, we go into somebody's home, we cook for a week's worth of meals or 2 weeks worth of meals. We package it up. It looks a lot like this. We have changed the label. So now it says what's in it, when we made it, and it has reheating instructions on it. Okay. But this is basically, you know, what it looks like. There are other things that people can do if they want to eat healthier, take care of themselves. There are things called meal kits. You'll see Blue Apron, HelloFresh, you know, or some of those. It's a subscription service that comes to you pre-portioned ingredients. You get to cook it yourself. You still have to cook it yourself. It's about $9 to $15 a serving. Obviously, it depends on the company and the package that you know that you've selected. It is relatively fresh. There's less grocery shopping. It's, you know, it's not 100% fresh. I mean, most of it is, but you will see some prepackaged things in there. There are lots of companies to choose from. The downside, of course, is you still have to cook. It doesn't accommodate a lot of your dietary concerns, and usually you can only order it online. There are delivery services out there like Magic Kitchen and, you know, and so forth, Meals on Wheels. The cost varies quite a bit. So these are things that would come to your home. A lot of our customers have used a lot of these, you know, before, and the feedback that I get is really mixed, I guess. It is convenient. You don't have to cook anything. Most of the time they will tell you what the calories are, but sometimes the food isn't as high quality. The meals can't be customized for specific diets or taste. And you'll see it says most meals are mass produced and frozen. So when you get them, a lot of times it'll come with dry ice. You put it in your freezer, pull it out, put it in the microwave, you know, beforehand. Again, I don't have any opinion about this one way or another, other than, you know, I'm looking at kind of, you know, the cost versus benefit, and still depending on what you need. There are senior centers that have dining sites that you can usually use. They're typically a very good price. Some of them are donation only, so you know, some of them are free to qualifying seniors. They're inexpensive. You do get to socialize. You don't have to cook. May or may not have good food quality. The meals can't be customized for specific dietary meals and tastes, and usually they only offer about 5 meals a week. Some of the senior centers that we work with have these. You know, we have clients in 55 and over centers where the center offers a lunch, and then we take care of the, you know, we take care of the folks for dinner. Obviously, we're the personal chef service. I don't know if there's another personal chef service like us in Charlotte. I don't think that there is. If you Google it, you may find somebody. Interestingly enough, 2 of our chefs did provide personal chef services to people before they came to us. Now, when they get to us, of course, they have to sign a non-compete because we don't want them taking our customers. But at the end of the day, they seem to be a lot happier with us than they are, you know, trying to find business on their own. Mostly because we're set up. You know, we have the advertising and, you know, and so forth. We have 160 recipes that we cook for people. Generally speaking, the typical cost of a meal is $9 to $15. And that, a lot of this is going to depend on where you want us to shop. So we go to a grocery store, buy exactly what we need to prepare the meals for that week, which you have chosen, the customer's chosen, and we portion it and size it. It is a true personal chef service. So whatever somebody wants is what we're going to provide. Um, the food quality better be really good because everything we're buying is really fresh. But it might be too expensive for some people. Generally, the a weekly service is 125 plus groceries. Biweekly is 150. So for one or two people, generally it's about a $425 monthly investment. And that would get meals for two people for an entire month. So some of our clients who tell us they spend a lot of time in the grocery, or I'm sorry, in restaurants and so forth, are actually saving a lot of money. It all depends. So this is kind of what, you know, like I said, this is kind of what we do. Senior home care. Some of these places, if you have somebody coming in from Home Instead, Comfort Keepers, Visiting Angels, as it turns out, I've worked with all of these companies because I'm in franchising, you know, and so forth. And they're generally nice people, but their hourly rate is $20 to $40. And it usually takes them a heck of a lot longer to do what we can do in 2. So it just depends. And then frankly, they're not in the food business. You know, they'll come in and help you get dressed and maybe take a shower or take you to the doctors or something like that. But they don't really specialize in cooking. It's just not their thing. So a lot of times it's difficult to coordinate services. So we're in the process of reaching out to some of the bigger senior home care companies and maybe partnering up with them because quite honestly, most of them don't want to do what we do, and we certainly don't want to do what they do. So that kind of works out okay. I'm going to stop here. I mean, if you want this, it'll tell you how to find the best personal chef if you want to get one, questions to ask and things of that nature. So, you know, I don't want to be any more salesy, I guess, than I've already been. Obviously, we love what we do. As hopefully you got from my presentation today that we care very much about nutrition, giving people an opportunity to age in place. And I think the other thing about what we do that we didn't talk about, I spent a whole lot of time talking about food and nutrition. We actually don't see ourselves in the food business. We actually see it as a service business. See, part of what's fun for us is our chefs get to know the person that we're cooking for. And we develop a relationship with them. Many of our clients have been with us since the very beginning when we first got started. I will mention, I'm very proud of the fact that when in March, when everything kind of got locked down, you know, my wife and I went back to our chefs and said, look, if you're worried about going out, you don't have to go. And our chefs all said the same thing. We have to take care of the seniors because they can't go out. What are they going to do if we don't go? And we have managed to grow the business since then. And a lot of our seniors are very attached to their chefs. So, you know, the chefs are basically hired and trained because of their empathy for seniors and of course their ability to cook. They all have background checks. They've all had safety certification through the state of North Carolina. As you can imagine, cleanliness is a really big deal. We wear masks, social distancing, and, you know, all those things have to be recognized. And, you know, everybody's on board with that. So does anybody have any questions about anything I went over today?
I do.
Go ahead, Pinky.
You mentioned supplements, but you did not say anything about whether supplements would be a good addition or whether we don't need them if we eat healthy. I'd like you to say something about supplements one way or the other.
Truth be known, ma'am, I take a pretty reasonable number of them myself. My doctor thinks it's okay for me to do that, particularly CoQ10 is one of the things that I take. There's another one that I take. Now, my sister is in the supplements business. My sister-in-law is in the supplements business. So there's another product that I take that's similar to Prevagen, what you see on television. It's not as expensive. It's kind of a fish oil product, and I do take that. Um, so my doctor is okay with it, but he also believes, and this is me and my doctor, not you and yours, but my doctor also believes it's okay, but he also said if you're eating all the things you're supposed to eat, you probably won't need a lot of those things. So if I'm getting the kale that I'm supposed to get, and the olive oil, and a lot of the other things that I'm doing on the plant-based side, of right levels of protein and good carbohydrates that are coming from fresh vegetables, I don't really need a lot of the supplements. Honestly, ma'am, what I did was when I did this blood test with him that I mentioned to you, it was like 6 or 8 pages long. That's kind of how we figured out what this was going to look like. That's when he said it's okay to take the CoQ10, it's okay to take the Prevagen, like the fish oil product, and so forth, because he could see in my blood levels that it was okay for me to do that. To be honest with you, Pinky, it's always bothered me a bit that the supplements industry isn't regulated very well. These people can say anything they want. If my sister-in-law wasn't in the business, and if I didn't believe that she worked for a good, solid company, she works for a company called Natural Factors. And she just has an incredible amount of knowledge about this stuff. And she's been doing it for a very long time. So I will take some recommendations from her from time to time, but I believe in my doctor. I want to go back to him and say, what do you think about this? And what do you think about this? Because as you probably aware, supplements can be really expensive. And I don't want to take them just so I can feel good about paying all this money to take a supplement. So
Gotcha.
was that helpful?
Yes, very helpful. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Anybody else?
So I just had a question about the way you guys operate. So I hire you and then you come, do you prepare the meals and then bring them, or do you prepare them at my house?
We have to prepare them in your home for a couple of reasons. Yeah, for a couple of reasons. I'm glad you asked the question because I realized I wasn't as clear on that as I should have been. You see the picture on my screen is one of the chefs that's actually sitting with a senior who's keeping an eye on what he's doing and just socializing, because that is part of the service. We do want to get to know people. Our people are all fascinated with seniors, as I am. There's a wealth of knowledge out there and great stories. And, we want to be able to get to know people to say, what spices do you like or not? What portions do you like or not? The chef actually would sit with you, Jane, and say, let's talk about your menu for next week. So you would be picking 3 items, for example, 3 entrees plus a soup or a salad. And the salad could be, a chicken Caesar salad or something like that. So it's going to be significant. So you'd have a good variety and it's portioned and spiced exactly the way you want it. So we make all those things this week. At the end of that service, we're going to put a menu up. And this is an example of one of our client-facing menus, by the way. We send this out to all of our customers every week. And there's a new one that comes out. It's a rotation. There's about 6 that rotate around for our 160 recipes. Now, this one has dinner items on it. And you can see there's salmon and stew and chicken pot pie and meatloaf, chickpea curry. You'll also notice up here, they're all marked. So if it's low sodium, diabetic friendly, low carb, gluten-free, dairy-free, it's all marked right on the menu. And by the way, this is a 2-page menu. We also have breakfast and lunch ideas that we can give, that we send out to people. So these are just suggestions. And all these recipes can be modified any way anybody wants. This is just so that a client doesn't have to look at, a book with 160 recipes in it. You literally spend time with your chef saying, these are the things I like to eat. And your chef will say, yeah, I can do that, and whatever you want.
So the chef comes in and makes, like, for one period of time and makes you your week's worth of food. Is that how it works?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay.
We either make a week's worth or 2 weeks worth. Most of our customers like the weekly service because they don't want to defrost. If we make 2 weeks worth of meals, you're going to have a lot in your fridge, and you're also going to have a lot in your freezer, until we get back. And we're okay with that, of course. It is the biweekly service is more cost effective for people on a budget, as long as they're okay with defrosting. There are instructions on the labels for everything that we've made.
Okay.
And there's a pretty good amount of variety. So you have 3 different entrees, whether it's breakfast or lunch, and or dinner. It doesn't matter to us. We can do pretty much whatever you want. So we would come once a week or once every other week. We'd already know what we're doing before we get there. The chef calls the customer from the grocery store to say, hey, Pinky, do you need anything? Do you need bread or milk or eggs or anything like that? We don't upcharge at all for the groceries. We literally hand you the receipt from the grocery store. That's what you pay, plus the service fee. A lot of our customers now, because of COVID, who don't want to go out, have us doing all their grocery shopping, which is fine. We don't charge for that either. So, we want everybody to stay safe. Is that helpful?
Yep, another question from Kathy. Talk about your geographic area that you serve.
Officially, we can go anywhere in Union or Mecklenburg County. We own the rights for the whole Charlotte area. We can also go down into Rock Hill, Gaston County, Cabarrus County, all the way up to Statesville, if we need to do that. So we have chefs positioned all over the place. There are some places, Gastonia, we're not in Gastonia yet necessarily, but anything that has Mecklenburg or Union County, we can probably cover it.
Okay, that's great.
We have a half a dozen chefs right now. Some of them have, very specific culinary training to go along with their safety certifications. They all have to have the safety certifications, of course. And some of them don't, but honestly, it doesn't matter, because they're all people who love to cook, who love seniors. They're evaluated based on the happiness of their clients. So, seriously, we've had some people that we just, we have to change them out. We have a client right now. She liked her chef, but they weren't quite as good a fit. And so we took that chef and gave him to somebody else who adores them, and gave her a new chef. And she now, the first lady adores her new chef. So, it's a relationship business. I'll tell you very quickly, just for fun, my wife is an amazing cook. And we had a client that we had a chef assigned to, and the chef had some doctor's appointments that week. He couldn't make the service. And my wife says, well, I'll come up and do the service for you. And she said, if I can't have him, I don't want anybody.
Nice.
What are you going to do? So anyway.
Well, that's great. I mean, I love, there's so many elements about what you do. In terms of comparableness of people who are getting food at a restaurant and so forth. Obviously you don't always know what goes in your food at a restaurant. Your prices, similar to what you pay in a restaurant to get your food. So if you're really not into cooking because you don't like to, or because, honestly, you're just not capable, even if, it's maybe not something you do anymore, you can feel comfortable with, it's pretty cool. But what I really like about it, above and beyond even that, and the healthiness of what you can shop for in your menus, is that you also have that companionship, and you can actually have somebody there, particularly now, if you're comfortable with that, have somebody come in, and you can keep your distance, but you can have somebody come in the house, you could learn from them, but you can also have, a little bit of somebody to interact with too. So I think that adds a little bit of, just something different and special to what you guys do.
No, I'm glad you brought it up, because the socialization is a big piece of it. The chefs, it's not difficult to find people who know how to cook. I don't want to diminish that too much, but they have to be really nice people. They have to really care. It's not easy to advertise for those people, and we screen them extremely well. They have to have background checks and all the other things that I talked about, and so forth, but they have to be nice, and they have to be genuinely empathetic, towards seniors. I mean, we spend hours with these folks and we want to make sure that they're happy. And as I said, the socialization side is a big deal to us. We like spending a couple of hours, and giving them a chance to taste the food while we're there and doing all this cooking and, and so forth. It's a lot of fun. And, the chefs that we have, most of them we've had for quite some time. So far.
I have
so
another
good.
question for you. How many clients do you currently serve and what's your maximum that you can serve?
Right now we have 25 recurring customers. The maximum, there is no maximum number of people. We actually we cook for a family of 6 right now. And we do it every week. Now, needless to say, they have to pay more because the chef has to be compensated because we can't do that service in 2 hours. You're cooking for 6 people and the number of entrees that they want, to serve all 6 of those people for a week, it's like a 4-hour job, to get that done. So we do have to charge them more plus the cost of the groceries, but that's okay. It doesn't necessarily have to be a senior. Our customers basically come to us 3 ways. Many of them come to us from the caregiver. Maybe it's a 40 or 50 something woman or man who says, I need you to help me take care of my parents. Sometimes they're people like us, my wife and I. I mean, we're in our 60s, we're baby boomers, and we still want to eat healthy and, maybe not want to spend as much time in the kitchen. So we have customers like that who both still work, who don't have time. My next meeting today is with a woman who has a husband who own a business. They don't get home from work until 7:00 at night. They own a business. They go in early in the morning, they get home late. And the lady said, I don't want to do it. I don't want to cook. And my husband hates going out, not to mention what it costs them to go out. So, that's another person. The people we love the best, to be honest with you, are the super seniors. If you were born before 1947 or somewhere in that area, you're our favorite. Pinky's in that group, I guess. And the reason is because they'll listen to their doctor. They'll stick to a program, and just for the record, we'll cook whatever somebody wants. Okay. You saw in my presentation today, there's a big emphasis on trying to cook healthy, but at the end of the day, if you want thicker gravy in your chicken pot pie, we'll make it for you. Okay. Because if you've lived that long, you deserve to eat however you want. Okay. Just so you know. But we will, we do sneak some things in from time to time. So instead of having a traditional meatloaf, for example, let's make the meatloaf out of ground turkey. And maybe let's put a little kale in that. Okay. You'll never taste the kale, but it'll be twice as healthy as a conventional hamburger type meatloaf. See what I mean? It's things like that we do.
Right.
You don't tell them we're sneaky though, Jane. Okay. This is like a secret. All right.
All right. Does anybody have any more questions for Steve today? Steve, this has been great. I love your service. I love what you do, particularly now with COVID and, if you're used to going out to restaurants and you don't feel comfortable, I think it's a really neat service. And you guys might be interested in talking to Steve directly, or if this may ring true for somebody, I'm already thinking of a girlfriend who works hard all the time, trying to eat healthier and is just really busy. So, like I said, I think that has merit for a lot of different people. So
well, I'm glad
Steve,
to hear that. Yeah, you can see
appreciate you coming today.
Okay, my phone number's on the screen. My wife's cell number's there. My wife's email address. And again, I'm going to send this over to you, Jane, so you could shoot it out. It'll have my information on it. So
Okay.
you'll be able to let everybody know. And I would be happy to have a one-on-one conversation with anybody who might be interested. Okay.
All right. Well, feel free, if anybody wants this information, just send me an email and I can share what Steve sends to me. So thanks you so much, Steve. Just like to preview next week. Next week will be breast health part 2. So If you didn't see last week, you could go up and look at it. It was really, it was great information. It was a lot of how to take care of your breast, things you can do at home to keep, prior to, nobody wants to find cancer in their breast, obviously. And so there was a lot of great information last week. We're going to talk to another person who deals in this. I actually went and had a thermogram from her last Friday. So I'll be able to share a little personal experience, but she's going to be talking about breast health from her perspective and how she meets with people and does this thermography. It's basically sort of a heat, no radiation, to sort of determine whether there's anything going on, and kind of tells you what's going on in your breasts in a sort of a new and different way that many people haven't heard of. So I personally had a pretty neat experience. I'm going to tomorrow do my follow-up with her. So I'll be kind of a, firsthand experience sharing that as well. So next Wednesday at 4:00, again, breast health part 2. Once again, Steve, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody, it's always good to see you. Thank you. Hope to see you guys next week. Please share with other people. And it's, just take care of yourself, stay healthy, stay well, be happy.
Thank you,
Bye,
Jane.
guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.